how does one go back from this? Like, it seems that there might not be any going back, because it might be the gambler's loss paradox, where like I've given up so much already, now I just have to rationalize my losses to myself. But when people find out that you have secret FISA courts and FBI attorneys falsifying evidence and submitting it, obtaining secret unlawful spy warrants to spy on incoming presidents, and that's not enough to wake people up, without getting too doom-pilled, what does it take to get people to realize, and what can they do to walk it back, if it can ever be walked back?
I think it can be. I think that we are at a stage where the alarm needs to be sounded, and that's the point of the movie. But I do think that if you can get through to the ordinary American, and I think there are a lot of signals, and people do know that something is amiss. In fact, the left, I think, was really counting on the fact that just simply indicting Trump once. See, in a normal environment, you indict someone once, they have to step aside, they have to resign. It's going to be the end of their candidacy. And if they don't, they're just basically a dead man walking politically. But the fact that Trump has got 91 indictments and he's surging and he's like, one more indictment and my election is assured. I mean, only Trump could say that, right? It's just... Trump is Trump is the guy that scares them at a level that is unbelievable, really, and they, I think, are convinced that Trump is Hitler circa 1933, and this is why they justify in their own mind. It isn't just that they believe that they are fighting on behalf of truth, justice, and the American way by stopping this authoritarianism of the right. So there's a kind of paradox here, because when you say to people on the left sometimes, are we becoming a police state? They go, oh, yes, we are, Dinesh. That's because of Trump. That's because of all you right-wingers who want to suppress gay rights and shut down abortion. That would be a police state for sure.
Well, but that's the paradox of the impasse. I don't know how we get past the impasse, but and when I say two films, what is it? Two screens, one film. When Trump says 91 indictments, one more, I'm gonna, I'll guaranteed to win, and then the other side says 91. That's how bad he is. Right. When that number reflects, on the one hand, the absurdity to some, but the legitimacy to others, I don't know how you get back from that.
The problem is, let's just say Trump was reelected. The problem is that, let's say Trump says, I'm going to shut down the police agencies of government and I'm going to remake them from the ground up.
And people are going to say, that would leave us we'd be vulnerable, we'd be at the risk of...
Not only that, but they'll go beyond that. They'll say, here comes Mussolini. They'll say, this is exactly what Mussolini did. He dismantled the machinery of government to make it an extension of his own personal megalomaniacal ambitions. So... my point is, the only way to do it for Trump or anyone would be, you don't start by dismantling everything. What you start with is a fact-finding mission, and you bring out all the smoking guns. I mean, even with the Biden scandal right now, if you could find, and then
which one though? Are we talking?
No. I'm just talking about the collecting bribes left and right from countries all over the world. What's missing here is the check made out to Joe Biden for like $17 million. But the point is, when you put the smoking gun out there, at some point all the defenses fall apart, and then the left is forced to say something like, well, yeah, he was right to take the bribe, and that's the point at which they fall apart. Because as long as they have some line of defense, like their first line of defense is, there's nothing wrong here, they went with Biden. I've never discussed then they were like, we can't say that anymore. So now it's like, this is the villainy of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, loving father as he is.
I forget who it was. They said, if he's guilty of anything, it's guilty of loving his son too much. His son, who they say deserves sympathy for being a drug addict, and yet simultaneous accusations of the Trump family being on drugs. It's insane. I don't think they're even going to get to the point, say, the bribe was justified. They'll get to the point, oh yeah, the 10 million was for services rendered. What were those services? Yeah, what do I know?
Who knows?
I'm just a citizen.
That's right. No, it's the country has lost its moorings, I think it's fair to say. And I think what I'm worried about is that there are too many Americans who are sort of like the antelope or the wildebeest on the Nature Channel. And that even though the movie comes along and goes, hey, listen, here's a predator. It's in the trees. It has its eye on this herd called America. It's about to jump. People go, no, Dinesh, it's the wind. Or yeah, maybe it's a predator, but guess what? It's not going to land on my back. So we can keep grazing placidly. We're okay. It's that complacency. And the complacency is kind of understandable, because historically, the United States is a very innocent country. By that, I mean, is no experience of a police state. Americans are a little bit like Huckleberry Finn, and Huckleberry Finn, it's like every day the world is new to him. He's like, slavery? What? This kind of goofball innocence is a defining feature of America. Whereas in other countries, there's a cynical, but on the other hand, a much more realistic appraisal of danger approaching. Whereas Americans tend to believe it'll never happen here.